Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and day 6 of Vlogmas 2022. So I wanted to start out by mentioning that I ended up deciding after finishing up the vlog yesterday that as much as I wanted brownies, I wanted the brownies steam pudding even more. So that's what I had as my sweet treat. Although I did share the brownie recipe using photos from making them in the past. So let's talk about that steam pudding after I pull some fiber. I hope that today is finding you wonderfully well and you're enjoying this 6th day of Vlogmas. I am wondering when I'm going to get yellow, because I can already tell just from the outside color of the bag that this isn't. But I have another little chocolate present, and Spearmint the exhaust version. And it is, me put it here in front of the camera. That is a lovely, lovely green. I have to admit, when I ended up, I had shamrock green that I always liked quite a bit. But when I got spearmint, I have to admit, I really did take to that. So let's see again. Oops. So we made it. How many days? 5 days without any malfunction. This isn't a malfunction. That's just a little topper that goes on the wheel. That's where we can. There's a distaff you can get with this wheel that would go there on that spot if you wanted it. Okay, so yes, I was saying that spearmint turned out to be a really lovely green. I've enjoyed having that. It has a little more blue tones to it. But let's talk about the steamed pudding that I have shown pictures of and that I made as my sweet treat yesterday. Let me tell you the story of that steamed pudding. First of all, I've run, yes, like so many others, I have fallen in love with watching the Great British Bake Off. And in essence, I actually, for a long time, have been a huge fan of British television. And of course, I love studying history. So I've run into, through various forms of media presentations, the notion of the steamed pudding, something that we here in the United States, I think the closest thing we really have is, I know there's a Boston brown bread, which is a steamed bread. And I remember running into that recipe when I was still in high school and giving that a try. Not to any great extent. I need to warn you that we might be visited by a large cat. He is checking out the stuff behind the camera. So, but as I was saying, we really don't, I don't think we really have a lot of equivalent to this, what the British call the steamed pudding. We have cakes, we have cookies. Our pudding, when we use the word pudding, has a tendency to be a custard. A custard, something you eat with a spoon that's chilled. So, a custard, a mousse, something of that nature. Well, I loved the idea, the concept, when I would watch there's the fiber. When I would watch different British, especially historical documentaries on, like, Christmas time and the Christmas pudding, and And so I've been playing, over the last couple years, I've been playing around a little bit with the concept. But the Instapot brand of pressure cookers, there is, and I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, there are a couple that do a bunch of testing and provide recipes. And they talked about doing Instapot cheesecakes, and I've had success with that. And then there were you could make cake in the Instapot. Okay, I tried that. To varying degrees of success. Let me check. Oh, that's the problem. Okay. There we go. The wheel had adjusted since I last used it. So to varying levels of success. So a few weeks ago, I was trying to make my brownie recipe, and I've been working on getting this brownie recipe because my husband is not as much a cake fan. He likes brownies. And we've always had a bit of a disagreement when it comes to brownies because he likes gooey brownies, very fudgy, gooey brownies, and I like a little bit more of a cake brownie. So I've been working on this brownie recipe that I shared, and I'd finally figured out how to make it using my little tiny mini oven so that I'm cooking just for two, not an army. Saves on the budget quite a bit. Smaller cooking, smaller quantity cooking. There's definitely not nearly as much risk of waste. So I've been working on it, and I was really tired. It had been a long day, and I decided I was going to make brownies before we watched something on TV. And I clearly was past my due date, and I needed to be resting because I kind of lost track of what I was doing, and I ended up putting twice the quantity of flour in my mix. I also lost track of how much baking powder I was putting in. I was all over the place. Hold on just a second. I'm going to pause because I had technical difficulties. Okay, I'm back. I knew that yesterday when I talked about having technical difficulties and all that, I was going to jinx myself. And I forgot to change out the battery in my second camera before I started today. So, I was talking about steam puddings, and so I ended up making this brownie. I was starting to make this brownie, and I really messed up. And I hated the idea of just throwing it away. So I carefully divided everything kind of in half again, or whatever. I was careful. Needless to say, what I did is I made a second set of brownies. Well, my little vortex oven was full of brownies. So where was I going to cook the second batch? And I thought, okay, I will cook the second batch in my Instapot. Because right now, at that moment, I wasn't throwing anything away. But if I really messed it up, okay, at least I tried, right? But I knew I needed something felt off. So I added extra, I wanted it more cake-like. So I added extra sour cream to the recipe that was going into the Instapot pressure cooker. And I turned it on. I let it cook for 30 minutes on high pressure. And then I tested it, and it wasn't done. And that's what I'd run into in the past. So I was like, well, again, this is stuff that was probably just going to get thrown away because I screwed up in the making of everything. So I just shoved it back in the Instapot. Cooked it for another 30 minutes. Figuring for sure the 60 minutes would be way too much. But also wondering if it would work. Because I know that when you do a steamed pudding, I think it's something like most of the recipes, in a steam bath take like 3 hours minimum to cook. So I thought, all right, well, what can I lose, right? What am I out if this doesn't work? Oh my goodness, it turned out so chocolatey and good. It was like fudge, but also like brownie, and shaped like a bundt cake. And it actually managed, in the refrigerator, it stayed good for like 2 or 3 weeks of us just chopping away little by little at it to eat it. So it was a total win-win-win. So that ended up being what I succumbed to yesterday. I decided to make that. I cannot promise that it can be duplicated by anybody else. It really is one of those things that may just be a fluke of the, of my ability. But it was a lot of fun. It tastes really good. And I guess the moral of that story is we shouldn't be afraid to play around, and we shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. In this case, all the ingredients that went in it were good. It was just going to be a matter of seeing what happened if I just turned it on and left it. So, as I sit here and I spin my spearmint exhausted fiber, that is something to take away with this unwinding with fiber and fabric. And because I paused my, I'm terrible. I know I should pause, not stop my recording when something happens like, the beginning of this. But I always forget and I hit stop. And so I'm not going to be able to exactly keep track of the time today. And I suspect that is not a huge concern for those of you that are watching, because it's just our time together. But I am trying to keep these videos to a certain time so that you know how much time, to expect as you sit down, maybe with your slice of brownie or steamed pudding, and your knitting project, or beads, or cards, or whatever. Oh, by the way, I am wearing another set of my earrings today. Little snowflakes. But yeah, as we sit here and do this, I hope that by trying to keep a very specific time set, that it's helping you budget time to unwind during your day. And yes, I just dropped some fiber again. But I'm enjoying this. I will tell you the funny technical difficulties that have visited me last Vlogmas. Oh my goodness. I don't even want to get into what last Christmas, the technical. But this time, it's so funny. The editing of these videos isn't so difficult. Keeping them down to the 20-minute range does make it a lot faster for me to edit these and get them uploaded and share them. But the day that I tried to figure out the opening, you'll notice the opening credits is, if you are someone who's been watching my channel for a while, you'll notice I changed it for Vlogmas. And I will confess, that was a good day's worth of work. It shouldn't have been that difficult. It doesn't look complicated. But I had a Murphy's Law sewing room day, followed by a Murphy's Law technical editing period of time. And for those of you who are not familiar with Murphy's Law, it's basically, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And every day that I can do Vlogmas and not have a Murphy's Law, I will be extraordinarily grateful to the Christmas magic that is out there to do this. But, oh, let me get that last little piece. Oh, this is a beautiful color. Can you, yeah, get a shot there. This spearmint. As I said in one of my other videos, I get most of my acid dyes for wool. I get it from Pro Chemical and Dye, so it's their spearmint. It's not the only company, as I've said, that I get dyes from for especially my cottons and other dyeables. But for the acid dyes that I use on wool and silk, Pro Chemical is just the most convenient for me. And this spearmint color has been a real joy. It's funny though, because every time I dye something, you know, because I do it so random and I don't worry about trying to reproduce things exactly, it's like opening up a little treasure chest. Yes, I'm a kid at heart when it comes to this kind of thing. I love opening those little parcels, even though I'm the one that put them together. I love seeing how the surprise of what's the dye going to do this time? What's this specific wool going to do with the dye? How is it going to look? What will be the variations? I love that. I love the surprise. So that is wrapping up another spin and the jar. Let's get the jar out and wrap up this day. What are we going to get this time? Yes, I know that some of them are in there, and I cross my fingers like the sweet treat. I'm like, oh yes, I do have some that I'm looking forward to more than when I first made them. And I have another, make a savory treat. So, that's probably a really good thing, because with all of the sugar that's in the house, making something a little bit savory might balance it a little bit. So, I will think about it, come up with a solution, and if it is a recipe I can share, I will make sure to link it in the description below, in addition to posting a picture at the end of this video. I hope that you are enjoying this. I hope that if you see the recipes and you see an ingredient that is not something you have easy access to, that you go, okay, well, she kind of makes these things on a whim. Let me try substitution. Let me try something like it. Let it inspire you. I find that picking up on yesterday's message, sometimes the making do with what we have actually opens us up to possibilities, to options, to a world that may be unfamiliar, maybe a little bit shaky at times, but it opens us up to a world that is an adventure that is not one that we're walking alone. I believe, if we really think about it, it may not have been our mothers and fathers, it may not have even been our grandparents, but if we go back a couple generations, if we go back to our great-grandparents, if we go back to those people who lived through other times of strife, who found joy, who found peace, who found a grace, you may say, during those times, I think you're going to find that they're walking on this journey with you. When you go to the cupboard and you go, okay, I want to make hummus, but I don't have any garbanzo beans. What happens if I use navy beans or another type of white beans? Guess what? I've done that. And it tastes really good. So I know, having spent so much time growing up with my grandmothers and my grandfathers and my great-grandparents, they learned how to make do, and they had a very joy-filled life. That's my goal, and that's what I hope to pass on with you as we join together for these Unwinding with Fiber and Fabrics, and maybe just a little bit of time in the kitchen. I hope I inspire you to find the adventure and the joy in making do, in trying something new, and just not getting too worried if it doesn't turn out right the first time. Kind of like today's video. A pause in the middle. All right, well, we will see you tomorrow, and I wish you the best until then.